Rock presents Second Congressional District Candidates Forum sponsored by Soul.
Okay, our first question deals with the issue of unemployment, underemployment in this region. I'll start with Mrs. Kelly, followed by Mrs. Washington, and then Mr. Bill. Okay, Mrs. Kelly, there are no good paying jobs, certainly in the South suburban communities. And there is a limited access from certain South suburban communities to good paying jobs that do exist. Okay, the question is, what is your strategy to bring in good paying jobs, living wage, middle class jobs to the South suburbs, and what plans or strategies do you have to provide access to those jobs that currently do not exist in the South suburban communities?
You've heard a lot of us speak about the South Suburban Airport, and I have been a proponent of that for many years. I worked for the Village of Matteson for about 13 years before I ever got into running for office, and the village certainly was a proponent of the airport. But the thing about the airport is, it's not going to happen unless we get the governance under control. So when elected, that's the first thing I'm going to do, to bring the different factions together. There are three main factions that are have been debating over the airport, and we need to bring all of those factions together and then include Kankakee, because once we solve that, we can start building the airport. We don't have a lot of time. This is what the charge Governor Quinn has given to us. But once we start, 1,000 jobs will be immediately available to construct the airport. I came from a mom and pop grocery store, and I really believe in small business, and I want to work with the Small Business Association to improve access to capital, because that's a problem a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs have. When I was in the legislature, I created a bill, passed a bill, and actually it was with the now president, where we gave tax credits to small businesses that wanted to move to Illinois, wanted to stay, or wanted to expand their business. So I would like to see more of that on the federal level. Also want to support entrepreneurs. But the other thing is, I would like to see more public-private partnerships, like businesses coming into our schools and helping our students learn what is available, what skills our students need, because we talk a lot about infrastructure, transportation, and those kind of things, which I think are totally important, but I also want to see some of our students in the boardroom. I want to see students, you know, with science, technology, engineering, and math, and making the decisions and making about who's hiring and what businesses are coming in, not just being the employee, but being the employer also. So partnering, the third airport, support for small business, and I'm going to have the Robin Kelly Diversity Program, but I'll get back to that when I have more time.
I too would like to finalize the airport. Peatone Airport is an opportunity for lots of jobs here, right here. But as I look at it, it's taken 20 years for it to move and get anything done, and we still don't have the groups together to really work something out. I've been, as I told you about my history, I started from being a nurse all the way to going to running hospitals. And we had to move, we had to scrap, we had to negotiate, we had to, on the business side, we had to bring strategic planning together and get things done. It was all about getting things done. And I think that same experience that I will bring to this community, to bring people together, to really see what the issues are, solve the problems, and then move on. If we can't do it, then let's move on and get something else. People need jobs right now. You have 6 hospitals in this area. I was talking to one young man back there, and they talked about not being involved kind of on the periphery and doing some small things. But healthcare is the fastest growing industry in the country. And when you look at the baby boomers who are all getting older and going to need, when we talk about small businesses, they're going to need durable medical equipment and respite care and all kinds of things. There's so many opportunities for small businesses to get involved with, as well as anything in the hospital, from clinical positions where people are working with patients to construction. You'll see all the construction that's going on. There's lots of opportunities that I would love to see people get involved in. Okay, I got a couple more minutes. And then the transportation, that red line, that's about 55,000 more jobs. If we get that going, so people can get to work even if they live outside of the area and then back to work, but get that going just for jobs, those infrastructure jobs. President Obama has a $556 billion infrastructure plan. We need to help him get that off the table and get jobs for the people here in the 2nd District. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am a job creator. Since I've been in office, I've created thousands of jobs in the 14 years I've been in office here in the 9th Ward. I talked to you earlier about the 4,000 jobs off the Bishop Ford Expressway that we've created. Those are starter jobs. And, you know, I'm not going to tell you that, you know, when I get to Congress, I'm going to work on the airport. I'm going to tell you when I get to Congress, I'm going to build that airport. We're going to get it done. The same vision, dedication, and know-how that I took to make sure that we bring that Walmart and bring that addressing the food desert here in the 9th Ward, it's the same vision that I'm going to bring to the 2nd Congressional District. We need somebody that already has the experience in creating jobs. And I've done that over my career. I have a jobs plan. I'm the only one in this race that has a jobs plan that goes from one end of the district to the other, that's figuring out how we're going to create jobs. We have to have a plan to follow if we're going to create jobs. You can't say you're going to go there and just create them. You have to have a vision and a plan, and I have that. And ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about the red line extension, I'm the chairman of the Transportation Committee in the city of Chicago. I'm the one that worked on the red line upgrade that's going to be shutting down this summer, that's going to create a few hundred jobs, and that's a $1.6 billion project in order to make sure that the red line is, you can get to work 15 minutes less than it takes you right now. And then we're going to make sure that once and for all, we're going to connect the red line from one end of the city to the other. We've been talking about the red line extension for 40 years, from 95th to 130th Street. Well, since I've been chairman, we are in step 4 of step 7 as far as federal approval to making that happen. We're going to make it happen, and we're going to make sure that people have access to those jobs. Because right now, the people on the south side don't have access to the jobs as far as public transportation to get downtown. We're going to connect the city to the south suburban area where we're all talking and we're all one family, so we can all move forward together. You have to have somebody with dedication, somebody who's already walked the walk and not talk the talk. So if you look at my background, you see I have already accomplished what needs to be done. So just look at my record, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Our second question deals with infrastructure needs. And Mrs. Washington, we'll start with you. In 2008, Rock and Soul successfully worked with then Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. and the Environmental Protection Agency at the federal and state level to secure $6 million to replace the sewer system here in Riverdale in our tough economic environment. The question is, given that everyone at the level of government, be it federal, state, local, is crying broke these days, of the pork barrel projects are things of the past. What creative approaches will you take to bring infrastructure dollars to this district? You will have 2 minutes, Mrs. Washington.
Again, I just talked about that infrastructure bill that's laying right there. President Obama has had it in 2012. Again, it's $556 billion. And again, we need to move it. It's kind of like the same thing happens on a federal level as we look at in District 2. Why does it take so long? People talk about, well, it's been 40 years since we've done a transportation. That's a long time. I'm used to moving things a lot faster than that. And again, people can look at my record. When you talk about moving, and when you talk about healthcare and the business world, you've got to move it. You got to negotiate it. You've got to figure out where your votes are coming from, and you got to move the process. That's what I wanted to hear. There's no reason that we can't get the people together who need to make the decision and get it done. It shouldn't take 20 to 40 years to get something done. And I say, if you're happy with the way things are, with the president, with everybody else that's in the legislature, vote for them. If you're not, if you want somebody who's going to get there, work hard, have experience in solving problems and getting things done, look at that record and vote for Joyce Washington. I do think there are certainly those infrastructure building schools. When you look at our schools, we go in our schools and we've got ceilings that are falling down. We've got schools that need to be modernized. We need built roads that need to be built, bridges that need to be built. We need to make an impact, and we can do that with your help.
Being chairman of the Transportation Committee, I'm extremely familiar with infrastructure. One of the things that we have to do in the South Suburban area and the South Side is right now we're divided. That's why you can't get the amount of transportation money to come back to the South Suburban area as should be. Because what needs to happen, all the mayors need to come together collectively and send to Washington and Springfield a transportation bill for the South Side. Because right now, every city and every town is working individually about what their priorities are. There needs to be a package, and that's what we do in the city of Chicago. Every ward, we give our priorities to the Department of Transportation, and that bill goes to Washington, and then the money comes back. You have 50 wards submitting one packet. Well, if you have all the towns in the South Suburban area submitting their own individual packet, well, they're going to get their own individual attention. But if we pull them all together and bring all our resources together and submit one package for the South Suburban area and the South Side, now you're talking about getting leverage, because you're leveraging the weighted vote, you're leveraging the towns in order to get infrastructure money to come back to your area. It's not rocket science in order to make this happen. That's why I've committed to working with every one of the mayors, find out what their 3 priorities are. And I'm going to work on each one of those priorities, and the minute we finish one and they get down to 2 priorities, we're going to add another priority back, so we're constantly working off of their top 3 priorities. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know every town in the 2nd Congressional District, but every mayor does, and I'm going to work with the mayor to make sure that their priorities are met.
You hear me talk a lot about public-private partnerships, and let's take the Ileana, for example. When that bill was passed, that's what they talked about. They called it P3, for public-private partnerships, and there's examples across the United States about other corporations or investment companies that are willing to come in, like in Texas and Virginia, and pay for the roads, just like with the airport. There's a public-private partnership. There's a firm that is ready to put up the money to pay for the airport to get started. And I think we need to look at more of those type of entities. I'm not saying it's going to work in every way or every project that we want, but that's something that we need to look at, because it saves taxpayers money. Also, the other thing is Transportation and Highway reported to me when I worked for Cook County, and what we did when town and south suburbs had federal money, then we took our resources and matched that, our resources with the federal money, and we are doing a project. I don't work there anymore, but we're doing a project on 167th Street to improve the roads, improve the infrastructure, so businesses will come in. So we'll have transit-oriented development. I remember when I went to the groundbreaking, I was driving like this to avoid, you know, all the potholes, and businesses are not going to want to come here if we don't have good infrastructure. So not only partnering with private entities, but partnering with other forms of government, and that's something that we did under my leadership in Cook County. The other thing is we have to make a decision about what's important. When you invest, every dollar you invest, like in transportation, it comes back to you fourfold. So we're actually making money. Every 10 million we invest in transportation, that creates 36,000 jobs. So sometimes when they say you have to spend a little money to make a little money, but when you think about 36,000 people on the tax rolls, that's more revenue for the United States. So we need to look at all those areas. Thank you.
Our final question deals with crime and violence. And Alderman Bill, we'll begin with you. As you know, President Obama and Governor Quinn has several proposals on the table to address gun violence issues. However, much of what they have proposed already exists, particularly in Chicago. But yet, guns keep making it their way into our communities. Question: what are your strategies and plans to stop the ongoing flows of guns into the community, and what do you feel are long-term solutions needed to reduce gun-related killings and crime?
Well, being the former chair of the Police and Fire Committee in the City of Chicago, I passed the City of Chicago's ordinance back in 2010 for gun control. It was a comprehensive, common sense gun legislation that I passed as chairman of that committee back in 2010, where you have to have a background check. Your firearm has to be registered. You cannot have an assault weapon. So those are comprehensive, common sense gun legislation that already exists in the City of Chicago. The problem is the second tier market where the people are transferring their guns or selling their guns to the next person, and nobody knows that that gun is being transferred when you can bring guns inside the city. So what we need to do is have a blanket federal law, and all the president has to do is go and look and see what we passed in the City of Chicago and pass that across the country, because what happens is you look at the fact that you have to have a background check. The gun has to be registered. If you transfer a car title, you have to, if you sell your car, you have to transfer the title. Same thing needs to happen with a firearm. So it's very simple as far as what we need to do. And you know, we don't need high capacity magazines. You don't need to have assault weapons in our streets every single day. So we need to do away with them. So again, this is something that I'm familiar with, so I won't have to be trained to go to Washington as far as gun control. I've been out here fighting the fight in the City of Chicago for 14 years. I'm familiar with the violence that we're dealing with. I'm familiar with working against the gangs and the drug dealers. So ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to send somebody with the experience that knows what's going on and can deal with these issues on a federal level. You know, I believe that Alderman of the City of Chicago has really trained me to be the next congressman. And it's, you know, I really believe that the issues that we deal with now in the City of Chicago are the same issues we're dealing and being faced with on the federal level. So again, I've passed legislation. All we need to do is take it to the federal level.
I agree with the legislation that we're trying to pass federally, but also it takes a village. It takes access to mental health, it takes good schools, it takes after-school programs. As you hear, I'm sure, the hours of 3 to 6 or 3 to 7 are the most dangerous hours of the day because our young people don't have as much to do, and it takes jobs for our adults and jobs for our young people. But it also takes parents knowing where your children are. It takes neighbors speaking up. But I've spent a lot of time over these last couple of months with the parents of kids that have been murdered, and they're tired of our excuses for not getting things done. And so we need to do, I'm not going to repeat everything the alderman said, but the background checks, closing the loopholes, banning the assault weapons. We do need to do all of those things, but we need to do the other things too. Access to mental health, good schools, good after-school programs, Boys and Girls Club. We all need to speak up and be responsible, and we need to give our kids hope, because I don't want to hear anymore that my friend's granddaughter said, am I going to be safe in school? I've had constituents say they don't want to go to the movies anymore. I've had constituents say they don't want to ride the train anymore, and this is the United States of America, where people fought for us to be free and have freedoms, and people don't feel free. And then when do we stop? When someone wants a cannon in their backyard, are we going to let them do that also? And I'm a person not against guns. I grew up with cops. My grandfather was a hunter. My nephews are cops in Chicago now. So I believe, you know, people have their rights to legally own a gun. And I've been fighting this issue a long time to really fight the epidemic of violence, or the culture dealing with domestic violence, child abuse, anti-gang behavior, implementing programs to give kids something to do after school. And my first piece of legislation in the legislature was stricter consequences for straw purchases of guns. So if you can legally buy one and you buy one for someone that shouldn't have one, then you had stricter penalties applied to you. So thank you.
I think here's another question where we talk about it's taken us a long time. We're doing the same things over and over again. We're not getting any different results. In fact, it's getting worse. And I think, again, we have to look at what are the inherent issues with this. I agree with everything everybody said. We're going to stand with President Obama with the bill that he has now, with the no assault weapons, you know, closing the loopholes, all the things we talked about. What I don't think we talk about enough, though, when the third grade is where prisons decide how many prison cells they're gonna build. So why don't we have our kids, our nurses, our mental health workers, our psychologists looking at those kids in the 3rd grade also, and finding out where there are instances where we can move a kid, we can treat a kid. I've been in mental health. I've run psychiatric hospitals and drug abuse places, clinics. And we can really treat a lot of these kids. It starts there. And if we take all our nurses, if you notice, nurses go, they have 3, 5, 6 schools. We don't have mental health workers. And maybe the Newtown shook us up. We had 26 killings there, but we have that all the time here every weekend. So we need to really look at where the problem starts. What can we do there? Instead of cutting, we closed 4 mental health facilities last spring. And maybe that's not the place to save our money. Maybe we need to get people there and again, within our schools, looking at every one of our kids and making a determination. What can we do with those kids that just aren't right? You all know, we look at mental health really differently than everything else. It's something to be shown. We break our arm, we go to the hospital, we get it fixed. Mental health is a whole different thing. We need to really change that culture and look at where our kids are in the 3rd grade and start making decisions based on that. That's what I really want to do. I'm the only one that has that kind of experience. And I thank you so much.
ROC presents 2nd Congressional District Candidates Forum, sponsored by Soul. Be sure to like us on Facebook. Thank you for watching.